What is going on with TLT stock? I got a comment. Just happened to be doing laundry Saturday morning downstairs, and I was skimming through. Someone asked, "When are you going to be buying TLT stock?" And my response to that comment was, "Boy, I just don't have a lot of confidence buying into these stocks right now. We are shifting things from a um, low interest rate environment to a much higher interest rate environment. Interest rate yields right now are moving higher. TLT stock and TMF stock continually pushing lower. They look like they want to punch even lower. And I see that as the norm, that we are transitioning into a different kind of economic environment. This doesn't mean a catastrophe for the economy as much as it means that the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates in order to mop up liquidity and take on inflation. And they will keep interest rates higher for longer. That's a key. I got the yield curve I want to show you. And if you look at the yield curve, it kind of gives you hints as to how much higher interest rates on, say, the 10, 20, and 30-year yield are going to move higher, while at the same time that pushes TLT stock and TMF stock lower. Let's jump in. I'll show you these charts, what I think is going to happen over the course of, say, the next year and a half. Here is TLT stock. TLT stock and TMF stock, mirrors of each other. They are price to interest rates. So as yield moves higher, price moves lower. That's an inverse relationship for those who don't quite understand how that works. Because interest rates are moving higher, TLT stock, TMF stock, and bond prices in general are moving lower. Now, before we jump in, this is a new channel. Not sure if you noticed that. I send out a daily email basically encompassing what's going on with my content I pushed out for the day. It's a free email, and it's just basically, hey, listen, I did these videos today. I have Cannabis Investing Newsletter. I'm switching that channel name. That email will still have all this stock information in there, but I launched 2 other channels to break things up because some people are really interested in this particular video but don't care about the rest of the stocks. Totally get that. Thank you for following along. Make sure you hit the like and follow button because this channel here will deal specifically with this kind of content from now on. The email will have everything in there, but you won't see this kind of other kind of content showing up in your feed from YouTube. And that was really the sort of driving factor. Some people were really interested in my cannabis stocks information. Other people were interested in this kind of content. The third channel, Tech Stock Analysis, where I analyze tech stocks, look at the NASDAQ 100. I'll break that down on a regular basis because it's one of the biggest and most important sectors of the economy, more so than the Dow 30 if you ask me. Links are down below. Thank you for following along. Totally appreciate that. Make sure you click those links and find the channels that you're looking for if you're not already signed up. Let's jump in and we'll take a look at this. So again, TLT stock and TMF stock, I mean, it's getting ugly. But I've been saying this for weeks and weeks and weeks that we're going to see higher interest rates. And because of that, TLT stock, TMF stock are going to fall. And let's take a look at the yield curve. What's happening? So what is the yield curve? If you don't quite understand what the yield curve is, on any particular day, there are yields that the market has discovered for each level of period of time. 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 6 month, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, 7 year, 10 year, 20 year, 30 year. These are yield curves off the US Treasuries. The 30 year, the 20 year, the 10 year, these are longer dated, meaning way out there. More upfront, the 2-year yield is really influenced by what the Federal Reserve does. Because when the Federal Reserve makes a move today, it may be within 2 years that interest rate move up in that particular example still exists. But after 2 years, the Federal Reserve may lower interest rates. So any movements today would really affect what's going on in the 2-year, more so than the 20-year. And that's something to, once you kind of conceptualize that, you sit there and say, well, that makes sense. So the market believes that interest rates are high right now, but eventually they're going to go much lower. In order for that to happen, the economy will slow down, giving the Federal Reserve the ability to lower interest rates. What the Federal Reserve has been saying repeatedly, and you found on my channels, in my videos, is the same thing that the Federal Reserve has been repeating. Interest rates will remain higher for longer. So what's happening is those longer dated interest rates are acknowledging what the Federal Reserve said they are doing. That's why we're seeing TLT stock and TMF stock fall as much as we are. That the longer end of the yield curve is moving higher. Whereas the short end of the yield curve, the Federal Reserve, they pretty much kind of gave us heads up. We probably have one more interest rate increase this year, and we'll see what happens next year. I'm firmly in the camp that the Federal Reserve is nowhere near done. That next year, we don't see interest rates move lower. We see them at the very minimum remain where they are, but likely move higher. I don't think that they magically hit the interest rate level that will appropriately push inflation to just 2%. Now, we have seen some moves in interest rates. We just saw inflation numbers Friday. Friday, we got PCE index, which showed headline inflation moved a little bit higher, core inflation moved a little bit lower. Headline, of course, has food and energy, which food and energy, if you looked at the price of beef, just go to, TradingView that I use for these presentations, and look up live cattle or feeder cattle, and look at those charts on a long-term basis, straight up, up, up. All you have to do is go to the grocery store and sit there and say, you want how much for one steak? I'm eating chicken tonight. Here is the 30-year Treasury yield, which means prices, the inverse of this, has fallen down. We're getting closer and closer to a more normalized level for the 30-year Treasury yield. I don't know that we're probably going to see 7.5% on the 30. That's taking things back all the way to the mid-1990s. Our economy functioned just fine during the 1990s at those interest rate levels. But our economy is quite different than it was in the 1990s. Globalization, of course, has shifted everything. And of course, during the mid-1990s, that's when a lot of dot-com companies started showing up. Our economy now is more focused on those kinds of products per se versus what it was doing in the 1990s. So we may be getting closer to, say, 5.5% for the 30-year, maybe 5 and 7.75, somewhere in there. But we're clearly out of the area where there is going to be loose money, meaning low interest rates. Because of that, you're looking at the TLT stock. This is the longer dated TLT. This only goes back to 2007. We're probably going to see more downside. I do not, in an answer to that individual's text message comment down below in my video, I don't see them pausing, then the very next month lowering interest rates, which would flip the trajectory of TLT stock and TMF stock. I expect we see a whole bunch of sideways for a really long time. Could you buy on the dip and take those little rallies? Yeah, you probably could. Will we see this big, massive move like what we saw over the past several years? No, probably not. And I looked at some of my content, or I looked at some of these charts in a video a couple weeks back, 2 weeks back, maybe last week. 2011, things shifted then. We're shifting backwards. Money supply started really accelerating then. The economy kind of sort of did some things, that shift is being taken away. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. We are now in the opposite reaction phase. We'll probably continue to see TLT stock slowly, progressively move lower, maybe get a little pop up once we get an idea that the Federal Reserve is done, but then you're likely to see long-term sideways movement. But if we get to that point where the Federal Reserve is done, they may not raise or lower interest rates anytime soon, but anytime you see the market kind of moving lower and lower, TLT stock and TMF stock, that's a buy on the dip, but you're not buying your Porsche by the end of the day kind of thing. You're hit and quit. Buy the dip, get out by the end of the day, get out by the end of the week. Make a few points here and there. But these big moves, like what we've been seeing over the past couple quarters, years, decade, those are done. We're no longer going to be in an ultra loose environment. The Federal Reserve is tightening things up. Their money supply will shrink. Of course, this is bringing in money from around the world, which is kind of mopping up the lack of liquidity, the mess that the Federal Reserve is making by cleaning up the mess that the Federal Reserve made. That is a benefit that we're seeing. The dollar continues to rally because money is being attracted into the United States because of the higher interest rates. So it's going to be an ongoing thing. I'll continually answer that question. Make sure you hit the like and follow button on this, especially the follow button, because I'm just launching this channel and I'm going to continue to put this kind of content out there. The links are down below for my other channels. Thanks so much for following along on those. I've got a couple more videos coming out this week in this kind of content area. We'll see you in the next video.